In this video we're going to be going over chapter 7 in the text, where we're talking about motivation. In this chapter we're going to be getting into the things that affect our performance and all the various motivation theories that go along with it. We'll talk about criteria for setting objectives, and then also what is it that we can do to help with people's motivation as far as enriching jobs and things like this. Now, motivation is an internal process. I sincerely believe I cannot motivate you to do anything. All I can do is set an environment so that you can motivate yourself. To me, a manager cannot motivate other people. All the manager can do is set that environment. People have to decide for themselves whether they're going to be motivated or not. Being able to motivate yourself and others, it says, I disagree with that, but being able to motivate yourself is critical to your career success. When you think about what motivation is, there's this performance formula where you have to have the ability and the motivation and the resources in order to perform. If you don't have any one of these, or if any one of those are low, performance is going to be low. And so what we're going to be doing here is talking about this piece right here as far as motivation is concerned. When you think about motivation, there are basically three types of theories. You have content, process, and reinforcement theories. Content theories are focusing in on what is it that people are needing. It's primarily focused on needs. Unmet needs motivate. That's the basis behind this. Unmet needs motivate. Now, the one that most people know about is Maslow's needs hierarchy. What he did was he identified 5 key needs, and they're set up in a hierarchy such as this, with the lowest level that have to be satisfied first are physiological needs, and then safety, then social, then self-esteem, and then self-actualization. The way Maslow was setting this up was lower level needs have to be met first before higher level needs are motivating. For example, if you don't have food, you're not going to care if you're with other people or if you feel good about yourself. You have to get that food first. Now, so it was a lockstep process that it had to go through. And if you didn't satisfy this one, you couldn't satisfy these. Now, before he died, he basically recanted. He said, it doesn't work. Because what they found was there was not necessarily a lockstep process depending upon the person. Plus, people could be motivated at a couple of different places at the same time. For example, a downsizing has been announced. Nobody knows who's going to be whacked. The thing is, everybody knows that some people are going to be gone. Things that will motivate people at that point in time would be safety needs. In other words, how can I feed my family? And self-esteem may be motivating at the same time, kind of a why me. The thing is, it makes a lot of sense in that if people have an unmet need, they're going to be motivated to satisfy that need. So from a management example, it's figuring out what it is that's not being met for those folks and try to provide that. Alderfer's ERG theory basically condensed and simplified Maslow's needs hierarchy into 3. He was saying basically these 2 here, physiological and safety, are existence. Social needs are relatedness. And then self-esteem and self-actualization relate to growth. Basically, what you have to do when you're thinking about needs theories like this is what is it that is missing for that person? What needs have been met, which ones have not? And what can we do to help meet some of those unmet needs? Then you have Herzberg's 2-factor theory. Now, most people have a tendency to think that job satisfaction is a continuum which goes from dissatisfaction to satisfaction. Herzberg said no. He said there's actually 2 continua. There are things that get people motivated, that bring on job satisfaction. And there are things that prevent dissatisfaction. The things that got people jazzed, he called motivators. The things that prevented dissatisfaction, he called hygienes. Now, why he called them hygienes, I don't know. When I think of hygienes, I think of washing your hands. The thing is, Motivators have a tendency to be intrinsic types of things: achievement, advancement, recognition, doing cool work. Hygienes are extrinsic types of things: policies, supervision, working conditions, pay. If just because you add some new policies or you improve working conditions does not necessarily mean that people are going to be motivated to go above and beyond. But you take something like that away, they're going to be pissed off. So understanding the extrinsic types of things just prevent dissatisfaction. Now, when you compare that to to Maslow's needs hierarchy, the hygienes, the extrinsic things, are the physiological and safety needs. The motivators, the things that get people jazzed, are the social, self-esteem, and self-actualization, the higher level needs. So hygienes are the extrinsic lower level needs, all right? Job security and pay. Motivators are the intrinsic types of things, doing cool work, the internal rewards that you might get. Alderfer came up with what he called his manifest needs theory. Basically, he said people have three key needs: achievement, power, or affiliation. Those who are motivated by achievement are problem solvers. They're goal-oriented. What you want to do for them is give them something that's non-routine, something that's challenging. Give them a lot more responsibility. They will succeed. People who are motivated by power want control, they're competitive, they don't like losing. So to help them get motivated, what you do is you give them autonomy. Give them some decision making. Let them work alone, all right? And give them a whole task and not just part of it. Those who are motivated by affiliation want to be with other people. They like to be liked. They want to socialize. So what you do is you have them working on teams. Give them a lot of praise. Let them do the other training. Then you have process theories. That's the how and the why. Two key theories there. You have expectancy and equity. Vroom's expectancy theory is kind of a formula. Now in the book it talks about two things, but actually it's three. For somebody to be motivated, three things have to be present. They have to believe they can do the task. They have to believe that if they do the task and they're successful at it, they'll get rewards. And they have to value the reward. Now, value of the reward does not mean the number of dollars or anything like that. It's how much they appreciate or they want that award. If any one of these things is missing, there is no motivation. So people have to believe that, yes, I can reach those sales quotas. And if I reach that sales quota, I will get the bonus. And I value the bonus that's being provided. The expectancy is a person's perception, and higher expectations gives you higher motivation. Valence, in other words, the value, is what it is that they value as far as that outcome or reward. Personally, I think Vroom hit a home run with this. When you step back and think about why someone is motivated or is not motivated, you can start to believe and look at, is it they feel they can't do it or that they won't be rewarded, or they just feel the value is going to be more work. So I think this is a good one to keep in mind when you're thinking about why is it that people are or are not motivated. In order to help people get motivated, make sure you're tying performance to the rewards, and it's a reward that the person really likes and that they want. Now, Adams' equity theory, all right? Equity theory is based on looking at and comparing what it is that we put into things versus what we get out of it, and we compare it to other people. So if I feel I'm doing more work and getting the same pay as somebody else, I'm going to feel that I am not being treated fairly, I'm not being treated equitably, and I will be motivated to back off on what it is that I'm doing. People have to perceive they're being treated equally, and if they're not, okay, they're going to be backing off and they're not going to be motivated to do things. Plus, what's interesting is people have a tendency to inflate their own efforts compared to others and overestimate what others are earning. So many times people have a tendency to think that managers are making so much more money than they are. It's not necessarily true. For people to be motivated regarding equity theory, you have to make sure that people are aware of the perception. Now, you can't tell people what other people are making. The thing is, you can make sure that people are clear as far as the fairness aspect. High performance needs to be rewarded. People know when they do a good job, and so you need to make sure that they know it. And how people feel is what counts. They might know something, but it doesn't matter if they feel differently. Then you get into reinforcement theory. The whole idea behind reinforcement theory is behavior modification or operant conditioning. So what happens is you have a stimulus, and then you get some sort of a response, and then you get some kind of consequences. If you think about Pavlov's dog, that was classical conditioning, where the dog knew that when the bell rang, they got a treat, all right? And so they could get people to, or get dogs and get animals to do certain things based on classical conditioning. Problem is, we're dealing with people. People have choice. And so we're talking about operant conditioning in this case. There's different types of reinforcement. Now the thing is, positive and negative reinforcement is still reinforcement. It increases the possibility of repeated behavior. Now see, positive reinforcement is rewarding that desired behavior. Negative is removing something unpleasant. So for example, you have the little kid who's sitting there going, mama, 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 and acting up in all kinds of ways. Why? What is it that the kid is wanting? The kid is wanting impact. The kid is wanting attention. And so what happens is the mama gives him all kinds of attention, yells at him, you quit doing this to me, this sort of thing. Well, getting the attention, even though it was negative. So negative reinforcement actually still increases the possibility of repeated behavior. The key is to try to find positive ways to reinforce what it is that they do. Catch people doing something right. When you do that, you increase the possibility of repeated behavior. Extinction is where you just ignore something that happens. And if you just ignore behavior, tendency is it'll go away. Punishment is the least effective, all right? And so what happens is you start getting acts of sabotage and threat, low morale, that sort of thing with punishment. So the key when you start talking about reinforcement is focusing on the positive reinforcement. Now, when do you do it? Now, they talk about schedules of reinforcement, fixed interval, variable, this sort of thing. The key is be like a slot machine, variable ratio, a slot machine, where if you think about a slot machine, you put in your quarter and you don't get anything. You put in a quarter, you get a little bit. You put in a quarter, you get nothing. You put in a quarter, you get nothing. You put in a quarter, and you get a little bit more than what you did before. The whole idea behind that is to keep people doing stuff. It's amazing what the boats know that people will spend their money on. So that whole idea of the variable ratio is important when you start thinking about how often do we reinforce behavior. With reinforcement, you need to make sure the expectations are clear and using appropriate rewards. Focus on the positives. Don't reward undesired behaviors. So other motivation techniques to help get people jazzed. Okay, first of all, incentives and recognition. Now, incentives could be dollars, it could be plaques, it could be all kinds of things. The key is recognition. The key is to recognize when somebody has done something effectively. I'll be posting a document that has a bunch of different ideas, very different as far as some of the things that you can do to recognize folks. You can also help with motivation as far as setting objectives. Many times, if you have a stretched goal of some sort, something that's difficult but doable, people will be motivated to accomplish. It needs to be measurable, has to have a target date, all right? And people have to buy into it. For example, every year I do the BUS225. I have a goal that in September I'm going to be riding 100 miles on the first day, riding my bike 100 miles on the first day, and then on the second day, depending on how I feel, either 35 miles, the short route, or 75 miles, the regular route. And so because I have that goal with a date in September, I know that throughout the year I have to ride and increase my mileage in order to achieve riding 100 miles in one day. Organizations do that by management by objectives. It's an organizational approach where the top management has certain objectives and they roll down through the organization where everybody's goals and objectives help to achieve the overall organizational objectives. You also have job enrichment. In other words, people are doing a particular job, and one of the things you want to do is enrich that job, give them more. For example, let's say that my job is to do the left front leg of a chair. Other people are doing the other legs and seats and the backs and that sort of thing. Well, job enrichment might say, okay, well, not just the left front leg, but all of them. And then maybe you add on, okay, so I'm going to do all the legs and also build the entire chair. That's enrichment. Even more enrichment would be, okay, I'm going to build the entire chair and I'm also responsible for ordering all of the materials for it. So what you're doing is you're giving people variety and responsibility where they learn new skills and relieve that boredom. Make them responsible for identifiable work and give them autonomy and flexibility to get their job done. It also includes job design. What are we doing to design a job that can make things much more motivating for folks? Sometimes it's going to be simplification where you're eliminating things that are not productive. There are a lot of things that people do that don't make a difference. Maybe you can combine some tasks, or maybe you can change the sequence in order to get things done. One of the key things that we need to think about is what are we doing to motivate ourselves? We need to set our objectives. All right, we need to identify, here's a goal with a date, and it's very specific as far as what we want to accomplish. We want to put together specific plans. Just because we say we want to do it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get it done. We need to measure our results and get feedback of some sort. If you have a goal of losing a certain number of pounds by a certain number of date, you need to make sure that you're getting feedback maybe on a daily or every other day basis where you get on the scales and see what you're weighing. And then you have to have some sort of reinforcement for the results. Give yourself a reward somehow. These are some of the key concepts from the chapter. If you have questions, give me a shout.